Hey everyone, it's your favorite history teacher, Miss P. For our first video, we're going to look at the entire first unit. It is the Foundations period. We cover from way before 4000 BCE to about 600 BCE. We're going to go over the first two chapters in your book. I hope you're ready. So chapter 1 takes us back into the earliest times of recorded history, way before 4000 BCE. And this quote from your book really gathers the essence of how people lived back then. We do not want cattle, just wild animals to hunt and water that we can drink. Now this lifestyle was called the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And this lifestyle sustained humankind for over 95% of the time that our species has inhabited the earth. People went around hunting wild animals and foraging for berries and fruit, and there was no farming of any kind at this point yet. And this is how people lived for most of our human history. I think that's pretty cool. The first 150,000 years or more of human experience was an exclusively African story. Around 200,000 to 250,000 years ago, in the grasslands of eastern and southern Africa, Homo sapiens first emerged, following in the footsteps of many other hominid or human-like species before it. And then the next big thing happened. They started leaving Africa. Humans started leaving Africa and traveling first into Asia, then into Australia and Europe, then making the long journey across the ocean into the Americas. Learning about all this makes me wonder, what were these people like? Well, Paleolithic societies ended up being small. They had low populations because of the limited technology they had at their disposal, and very egalitarian or equal among classes and genders. They also acted to alter their natural environment, so they made fires, for example. The ways that people interact with their environment is an important AP theme and skill that you'll have to know. Since there was no writing and there's no one around anymore that can tell us what life was like in the Paleolithic, historians turn to rock art to shed light into the spiritual nature of Paleolithic people. Life began to change for early humans as the last ice age was followed by global warming. This resulted in people settling down, which allowed for bigger populations and accumulation of goods, and of course the problems that go with all of that. While the chief feature of the Paleolithic era was the initial settlement of the earth, the Neolithic revolution marked an important change: agriculture. The agricultural revolution was the deliberate cultivation of plants and breeding and domestication of particular animals. Now, the really cool thing about the agricultural revolution was that it occurred separately and independently in many scattered parts of the world. Now, this doesn't mean that once the agricultural revolution occurred, that people stopped practicing their hunter-gatherer lifestyle. In fact, in many places around the world, people practiced a combination of hunter-gatherer lifestyle and an agricultural lifestyle. As a result of agriculture, a few different types of societies sprang up. Pastoral peoples moved around with their herds of animals and practiced more of a nomadic lifestyle. Agricultural village societies practiced agriculture, but they held on to those social and gender equality values, and they didn't have any kings or chiefs or bureaucracies of any sort. Finally, chiefdoms came about, and now these were organized politically. They had systems of power and privilege and inequality. Now that just about wraps up chapter 1, but what I want you to take away from this, what I want you to think about, is the idea that when we think about revolutions, we often think about something like the American or the French Revolution, violence and liberty. So what was so revolutionary about the agricultural revolution? Now we're just going to keep moving along into chapter 2, which is all about the emergence of the first civilizations. Like agriculture, civilization was a global phenomenon that showed up independently in 7 major locations scattered around the world. The names, places, and dates of development of these first civilizations are a critical must-know. You should also know that regional trade existed even in these early civilizations. Now, the features of these early civilizations are important also. Agriculture allowed for cities to develop, which is one of the most distinctive features of the first civilizations. You should know their characteristics and functions, how cities emerge, how they grow, and how they decline, because these are also important concepts throughout the course. A unique feature of early urban or city life is the specialization of work outside of agriculture, like people were scholars, officials, merchants, priests, and artisans. But with this specialization came the decay of egalitarianism and the rise of systems of wealth, status, and power, resulting in social hierarchies of both class and gender. Now, when we talk about things like continuity and change over time, the development of a patriarchal idea is something that came about in the first civilizations that still exists today. Yet another distinctive feature of the first civilizations was the rise of the state. States were organized around particular cities or territories, and they were led by kings who employed a variety of officials, maintained a measure of control over society, and defended against external enemies. These kings and leaders used different things like religion and architecture to justify their power and privilege. Also, during this time, writing was invented, and it was seen as a gift from the gods, and because it could be learned, it gave common people a way to join the esteemed circle of the literate. Writing also gave weight to regulations and laws like Hammurabi's Code. One of the essential skills you will learn in AP World History is comparisons. This chapter compares two civilizations, Mesopotamia and Egypt. And a great way to compare civilizations is by using grapes. No, not the fruit. Grapes stands for geography, religion, achievements, politics, economics, and a social structure. And keeping this in mind really helps you compare every single civilization, state, or country that you'll have to compare on the AP World History exam. And that brings us to our reflection on civilization. Historians debate whether or not the term civilization should be used because it often implies that before civilization, life was barbaric or savage, and we know that's not the case. And because the word civilization suggests that the people in the civilizations have a shared culture. However, it's highly unlikely that the people in Mesopotamia, Norte Chico, or ancient China felt themselves part of a shared culture. So, what do you think? Should historians discontinue the use of the term civilization? That's it. That's chapters 1 and 2 and the entire first unit. I can't wait for you to join me next time when we talk about the classical period.